So this video is going to be two-tiered, one for clients and one for actually business owners, and once if you have clients, right? So the way this call is going to be is like, how do you determine what KPIs you want to give to your agency based off your targets? And then from a business side, and then from a client or like client management side, it's like our clients' KPIs from the platform you're managing. Can you actually hit up, right? We're going to talk about this e-commerce side probably next week. But this time, let's just do lead gen kind of thing, essentially. I also shared the sheet I built out. Okay,
Sweet.
I will start sharing this screen now and start talking. And everybody can just hear me rant and say random shit in words. Okay, so understanding from a lead gen standpoint, there's always going to be multiple e-commerce is like view content, add to cart, initiate checkout to purchase. This is how we look at e-commerce, right? From a lead gen standpoint, it's always, let's just put it here, calls or some form of lead form capture. So just some form of capture, lead capture, right? And out of those lead captures, there's got to be some qualified leads that we determine, like some are good leads, some are bad leads, right? And out of those leads qualified that come in, there's always going to be some book jobs or like closed deals or something like that, right? Can we all agree on that on this call? Yeah?
Yes.
It's crazy. It's the craziest thing you've ever said in your life.
I love it. I know. I'm so
But I agree.
Yeah.
You're so crazy that I love you, man.
So now from each step of the phase, let's just look at it, these numbers here, right? So each step of the phase lose people, right? So let's just say we get 100 calls. Actually, let me move that here. 100 calls, right? And out of those 100 calls, we get like 55 that are actually qualified calls that have the right intent to purchase whatever service we're offering, right? And
should we go a little further? Sorry that I'm interrupting you, but should we go further? And I think people probably know, but just in case they don't know, when it comes to qualification, what that might actually look like? Because I know you're just talking about it, but we should probably say whether...
Qualified could mean a multiple of things. The way qualified is the intent for your service. For example, if Andrew is calling me to fix his roof, and I talk to Andrew for like 4 minutes, and Andrew's like, you can be like, Andrew's like, yeah, Andrew wants his roof changed. I can tell that's a qualified call for me, right? Some people phrase it based off of time frames of conversation. Some people phrase it off of the quality of their forms filled out. Some people phrase it off a bunch of filters that have came in through their thing, right? So it's just whatever you determine to be intent for the initial lead. Because sometimes you'll have bad forms, bad drop-offs, and all that stuff, right?
And I'll just say, like, this is a section you can use offline conversions for. And ideally, you want someone to actually be able to vet this. But there's going to be times where you're not going to have that capability. And that's why people do what Usama was talking about, where they have like a threshold of how long a call lasts, and then it would trigger conversion. Sorry, Andrew, you were going.
No, I was just gonna say, like, from the business side of the equation, like, people are gonna have wildly different ideas about what's a good qualification and what's something that like disqualifies somebody. Because I've even had clients where it was based on like even weird stuff like job title for like,
if they have a business email. Because I have a client too. It's like, oh, they're at gmail.com. That's not qualified. We want people who only have a business email, and they need to like within like there's qualification that goes down in 2 different rounds. So are we making this a little more complicated quickly?
Yeah, let's not make it too complicated right now. Let's keep it focused. We're going off the rails, guys.
So, but not really. We're talking about the qualification. With the qualification, that's where you talk to the client. If you are client facing or whatever, talk to yourself. Don't get crazy with your qualification, but like look and see who is someone who would potentially buy based off of like that initial conversation.
Yeah. So there's a call and qualified calls, like whoever has the right intent based off whatever you deem that intent is. Sometimes it's length, sometimes it's title, sometimes it can be whatever, right? In this case, we're going to go for qualified calls saying that's the intent. So 100 people calls, 55 we say have the right intent or like lasted more than a minute, 90 seconds, whatever. And out of those 55, let's just say 49 have ended up being booked jobs, right? So the first step you need to determine in when you're determining your KPIs. How is my sales funnels going, or how's the client sales going from a lead, a call, to a qualified lead call to a book job, right? So you need those ratios initially first. So the first thing you need is call to qualified call ratio, and I'm going to use these KPIs here because I have them here. So we from calls to qualified calls, you have 55%. That's what we're using here, right? And then from qualified call to booked jobs, I use 90. So we're going to have 90 here, which is 49. So I'm just going to take these numbers and put them here. Oops, I need to go up a little. Oops, here.
And for the love of God, put them in percentages.
I'm sorry. Here, let me fix that. Just because Colby.
Gotta have your spreadsheeting.
Okay, sweet. So now we have the call to qualified ratio and from qualified to book to job ratio, right? So if you have 100 calls and out of 100 calls, 55 are qualified, that's your 55% is your qualified ratio. And then from 55 to 49 are booked jobs, that's your booking ratio, which is 90% in this case, which is a great way. Now, I'll give you guys this sheet. You need to determine what your ROI is if you're the business owner, or what the client's ROI is if you're managing the client, right? In this case, we're gonna go 6x. We can mess around with the number and we'll see how it impacts after. Then we need the average job value, revenue per booking. I'm gonna start with $1,500, right? So now, because each step of the funnel is a different stage, we're gonna determine, basically reverse engineer, how much we need from a cost basis to hit this ROI number, right? So if we're looking at cost per booking, really straightforward, 1,500 divided by 6. Does that make sense? So 1,500 divided by 6, that'll give us our required cost per booking to hit our target, which is 250, right? So if we need the revenue per booking now, the cost per qualified lead, now this is where it gets interesting. You need to determine how much one qualified call is worth, right? So you know that a booked job is worth 1,500. You need to know how much a qualified call is worth. And that math is really, really the 1,500 and multiply by 90%, because that's your qualified calls to booked call ratio, right? So now you have this, which is literally the 1,500 or multiplied by 90% divided by 6, or which is your ROI, which is 1,500, your average revenue per booking, multiplied by your qualified call to booked ones, divided by your ROI, right? And you continue that with cost per lead, which is the same thing, which is 1,500 multiplied by these two numbers here, and that'll be how much a call is worth to you from a revenue standpoint, right? And you get this number. Basically, what this is saying right now is if I am optimizing towards calls based off this funnel, based off these KPIs, I need to get a call in under $123 for me to be at a 6x. So that's my CPA target. If I am optimizing towards qualified leads, I need to be at 225 for a CPA point. And if I am optimizing towards booking, I need to be under 250, right? So now here's where things, and then obviously it's basic math. If I'm starting with a 10, and this is where you can kind of estimate the volume if you can maintain these KPIs. If you have a $10,000 budget, like I have up here, divide that by this cost per lead, and you get the amount of calls you're going to get. Divide that by cost per qualified lead, and you get the amount of qualified leads you get. Divide that by book to job CPL, and that's how many book jobs you're going to get. And then from revenue estimation, and because Colby's going to hate on me, I'm going to change this to currency rounded. Divided from multiply the book to jobs by your average order value, and that's your estimated revenue you can generate for them based off these KPIs. Now, this is where things get interesting, right? We talked about
Did we record this video already? I'm sorry, but did we do this already, or am I just so used to us doing this that I can't decide when?
We definitely have not done
this. We did a while ago.
Are you sure we haven't done this? This is crazy. All right. I've lived like 4 or 5 lives, and I'm starting to kind of piece them all together. And this has happened before, so okay.
It's happened before, because I think we've had this conversation on like strategy conversations many times, like in agency meetings.
Okay.
I just spent too much damn time with you guys. Okay. All right. Well, this shows that we're not lying about this because we do it, as you can see, too much. So anyways, I agree with everything Usama's saying for the record. But continue.
So distracting, Colby. So distracting. But it's okay. I love you. Okay, so I forgot where I was. Oh, we were talking about the KPIs determination. Okay, so now this is where things get interesting. You have your funnel here. I'm going to mess with these numbers here a little bit now. For example, if my calls to qualified call number goes up to, let's just say for some reason, you're doing search and you focus on making sure the intent is better and the keyword you're going after is better. You have a better funnel in there, and the calls to qualified calls increases from 55 to, I don't know, I'm going to say 70 just so we can see the difference. Just watch these numbers change. All of a sudden, you have a higher CPL target because now you can spend more to get them to that target, right? But let's just say if your qualified calls to book jobs, the sales team isn't performing, they're not closing, and this goes down to like 60%, all of a sudden your qualified call drops. So you need to get more qualified calls to feed them, right? Then going back from the same standpoint, you go to the client, you're looking at these numbers here from like, okay, I need a CPL of like 105, I need a qualified lead for 150, a cost per booking of like 250. You're like, man, I've been running Google search for like 30 years and there's no way they're going to hit these CPLs. The client's numbers are unrealistic, right? And you're like, client, this ROI is not realistic. We could probably do like a 4. So what happens when we change it to a 4? You're at 157, 225. All these KPIs change because this number changed based off all these other KPIs. Essentially, you can kind of use this to gauge out what the client is doing. It could also be affected by like talking about ROI affecting it. But let's just say the client is having a bad month in a, say like they don't do a certain job and their revenue per booking falls off to like 1,000. All of a sudden these numbers change as well because now your target needs to change. But if the sales team does better and now you're hitting like $2,500 average order value, now these numbers change again and your numbers change, right? So
we can make this more confusing too. You finish your point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got thoughts, but I'll let you finish.
But yeah, so it's all determined based off the funnel, their targets, and how much revenue they're generating. And if you can track each step of the funnel, you can go back each stage and then figure out how much you can basically what your CPI at each stage needs to be for this to be viable. And then if you're a client, you can determine what you can give the agency. And if you're an agency agent, you can be like, oh man, that's not realistic based off what you're telling me. And I'll stop sharing now.
Yeah, I want to expand on that last point just because you can this is like such an important exercise and something that I think Colby obviously alluded to, like something that we've done just ad nauseum amount of times, either both together and individually for different kinds of accounts. But I think even if you have like if you're on the agency side or the freelance side of the picture, having a business that comes to you saying these are the numbers that we need for like cost per qualified lead or cost per call or whatever, doing reverse engineering this and then going through this process to figure out if what they're asking for is even possible with the budget that they're giving you is like, it is such a massively important thing to do, because it's the onus is on you for hitting those numbers and being able to achieve what the client says that they want. And if they say, if what they are saying they want isn't possible or even realistically possible, you need to have that conversation like right out of the gate, just so that you can make sure that expectations are set properly.
Oh yeah, 100%. And just to reiterate what Andrew said about leads, like if the client is like, let's just assume we calculated all this, right? And the client is like, I want 25 book jobs out of $10,000, and you're like, client, here are your numbers. You're giving me $10,000. This is the percentage shift between your sales funnel. These are the targets I need. or this is the targets we're hitting. Like if you want 20 book to job, it could be like a book ask for like increase in budget, right? These are our current costs per bookings to hit your 4x number. If you want 20 jobs, I need, I don't know, you play with this number. What happened if I need to do 15,000? Oh, that's 24. So let's just do, I need, I don't know, like 13,000. Get it? Or 12,000. There we go. 12,000. Right. So I need like 12,000. I can't do it in 10. So I need an extra $2,000. So it could also become a case for you where you're like, that's not realistic. Like if you want to get this much leads, you need to give me this much money based off of this.
Yeah, you should always be asking why, because
Yes.
I've always found that if there's this goal, and so many times, you know, I think when we get into the industry, you always just think, oh, you know, they have this goal, they know best.
Yes.
And the thing is,
Yep.
no, they don't. They just picked a number because they like it or something. And sorry that I'm so anti everyone, but it's like, yeah, you need to go back and see the math behind everything. And very quickly, sometimes talking with an organization or business, you might be like, okay, sweet, they're dialed in. They'll say it's because of, you know, this in the past, this is what we've seen. Or they'll just be like, well, this is what we think. And then you got to take them to the exercise and say like, well, we are working with your data. We're not working off anyone else's data. We're working off of your historical data, saying what's possible and what can be improved. And we can improve certain things, but we can't promise something, first of all, that hasn't been achieved in the past. And I mean, take into consideration too, when you're looking at these past goals, like how have things changed, right? Are there 150% tariffs going on right now? Are, you know, like, are they asking for something that just might not be possible in this marketplace? And you know what? You might make yourself more unpopular with potential clients or managers or anything. But the thing is,
I actually think
you're going to save yourself.
No, I think it's the opposite. Like the more
I do too.
With clients with like, listen, there's a competition is popping up here. There's just this and this issue happening. They're more like attached to you in that sense because you're not lying to them.
Yep.
Well, there's just certain clients. That's what I'm talking. Certain clients will be like, oh, well, you know.
Speak to that because Andrew's got more client management experience than.
Yeah, I think the amount of clients that will push back on you and like be frustrated by it are far fewer than the clients that will be like, oh, okay, this guy is obviously, or girl is knows their stuff enough to not only push back on what we have said that we want, but they're also trying to help guide us as a business to make sure that we are able to actually grow the way that we feel like we need to.
Yeah, it takes you out of the platform too. It takes, say, if you're just managing one platform, that takes you out of the platform, shows you more as like a holistic CMO, if we want to say that word or whatever, and that can get people excited. You can tell I've had to be scrappy once in a while, so I'm just always ready for a fight. But I would say be ready for that fight, because it's better to be over prepared than under prepared, and then you can just walk into that call, and you know what? 90% of the time it goes really well. 10% of the time it's what it is, but if you're prepared, you'll be in a good spot. And you should know your numbers, and a business should know their numbers. And if they don't know their numbers, you should show them, because ultimately it'll be your ass on the line. You're the first person they're going to cut.
Exactly.
It'd be the amount of times we've run across businesses that do not know their numbers. Crazy.
It's way more than you think, to be honest. I would say most don't. Especially if they're like in the like SMB size business, like small to medium sized businesses, like honestly, 75% of those businesses are just pulling numbers like out of their butts. Like it's just
like that number. The number that Andrew came up with, that number, it's the amount of numbers that come up with that.
Yeah.
And we just sit there and we're like, where do we have to, and the amount of conversations the team has to do, like with the guys, these numbers make 0 sense whatsoever.
I've had to have that conversation so many times with like newer or even like people that are working on an account that they're not as familiar with, and they come to me and say, this is what the client wants. I'm like, immediately, because we've done this exercise so many times, like all of us have a pretty good idea of what makes sense and what sounds like totally outrageous right off the bat. And like, you can just instantly just be like, there's no way. Like, there's just
I
no
can see it in
possible
the
way.
group chat that like when we were all under one roof working together, the thread would just be like, yeah, this math ain't math, and probably sent by Usama.
That,
And then-
that was my line. That was my line.
Yep.
Math and math. And...
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Anything else? I think we're good.
Yeah, I just and
Closing thoughts,
the
guys.
nice
Thoughts.
the nice thing is, like, none of this is complicated math. Like, it is super simple basic math, but it's just making sure that you're plugging in the right numbers from the right pieces of information to make sure.
I actually shared this sheet. I'll make
Yeah.
it so
yeah, you just need a template and you can just use that.
Yep.
template and just copy it and then only touch. I'll change the colors of the stuff you have to touch. Don't touch anything that's black.
Yep.
I'll make a note. But yeah.
I do have one piece though. I would say I was thinking about when you're talking is to not forget that the conversion rates between the events can change, and that will change everything.
100%.
You could have your cost per lead be really expensive, but that might actually in the end make you have a cheaper cost per deal.
No,
So it's like that's just
like,
put that in perspective.
Yeah, because that's what I mean. Like when I was talking about if you focused on like lead quality in the initial stages, then your call to qualified lead will go up, right? But that might result in a higher cost per lead. So you just got to mess around with numbers. That gets way too.
Yeah, you just got to look at it all. Because another thing I was going to say, just being like in the lead gen space, is a thing I focus on is that, like with what Usama was talking about, is I think really good in the initial stages, because then you could do a TCPA bid, like target cost per acquisition bid for your cost per lead when you don't have enough conversion data to do other things. Just so you don't know, I'll say you need 30 or more conversion actions or conversions to be completed within a campaign within a month, or else it's not going to optimize properly. If you are doing that within a campaign, you can use bid portfolio to combine them all. We've already done a call on that, but I'm just saying once again, you can do that. And where am I going with this point? Quickly, can I remember? Then you can eventually go further and then do cost per whatever. But what I was going to say is I get to the point where I might be bidding towards something else. I have my custom column and I am just looking usually at my qualified cost. And then
do a whole separate call on that. I think we should.
All right.
We'll say
fine.
No, because it's valuable. I think it needs a proper discussion.
Yeah.
Tune in for next week. Okay, Andrew, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. If you are working with any kind of B2B business or any kind of service-based business, if you get one of these kinds of accounts for yourself as an agency person or a freelancer, literally do this the second that your agreement gets signed and you have access to pull those numbers. Like literally it's the immediate first thing that you have to do, because going way back to what I was saying earlier, those performance expectations need to be set from like day one with that client. Like they just have to be, because otherwise you're just putting.
Because I think we've even gone back to clients and been like, guys, after the onboarding, like during the onboarding, like there's no way we can hit these numbers. Just complete transparency.
I've done it. I've done that a lot of times where, whether if you're working at an agency with a sales team and they're like, this is what we told the client we can do, then that's a whole fun can of worms, because then you or me as somebody like leading a client facing team has to come back and say, you know what sales told you? Yeah, no. Like it's just,
you're alluding to the joke that I wanted to make, because I know Usama wasn't going to ask me for closing thoughts, but I was going to say, my closing thoughts are, as soon as you get in there, pick a fight with the client sales team. Just go pick a fight with them, and then you can have a horrible relationship from the start. And just blame them for everything. Things aren't going your way, you just say, because you'll find they might start to blame you. Realistically, don't do that. But, acknowledge that there will be a sales team there and you should talk to them.
Yep. Blame everything on the client sales team because they suck at selling.
Oh, yeah. Always the. All right. I'm going to end this call because we're just ranting.
Don't take accountability for your actions. It's always somebody else's fault.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, people. I'm just going to let Colby talk because Colby's talking about stuff this week. Colby, stop opening up your whole screen.
I can't. I don't know where to put my notes. All right.